In this video, I'm going to show you the differences between how to draw a diagram for a series circuit and how to draw a diagram for a parallel circuit, which will be especially important in Lab 5F. So for that, I'm going to share my screen over to my iPad here. Okay. Okay. And pull this up that I should have had already. Okay, and more circuit diagrams here.
So it's more like the pudding frosting. So we've got on Pinterest.
Series and parallel. And for this, I'm going to have, I'll do one of the intermediate ones so I can show you the differences in them. Let's draw a series circuit then with 3 resistors. So we had resistors, I'm going to call it R1 was 10 ohms. R2 was 25 ohms. And R3 was 10 ohms. Now, if you used different values in these, perfectly okay. These were just the 3 that I had already sort of set up in our Lab 5F setup video. So, but please feel free to use different values. It is important that 2 of them are the same as each other. So the 10 ohm and the 10 ohm could be 5 ohm and 5 ohm, that's fine. But then the rest of them are different. So in a series circuit here, series, remember the key for this is that there is exactly one path. Another way to look at that is a one loop in the circuit. So it's a very simple form. I'm going to start over on the left by drawing a battery. Okay, and I've got wires coming off of that battery, and always next to a battery I want to label it with the voltage, and the voltage I had measured previously was 9 volts. That's the default. Now this is going to be one kind of big loop, sort of like this. And in that loop, so right now I'm just showing wires. In that loop, I'm going to remove parts and put resistors in. And so when we have 3 resistors, that would mean I put one up here, one over here, one over here, just to spread things out a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna erase those parts, put them in, because I have limitations on my drawing. So I'm gonna have a resistor, which is that sawtooth thing. There's my resistor 1. I'm gonna come down here, resistor 2. I'm gonna come down here for resistor 3. And I don't necessarily, I can label them as R1, that's always nice, but I must label them with their value. R2 and R3. Now I also ask you to put in 2 different measuring tools, voltmeter, measuring one of these components, and an ammeter hooked up to measure one of these components. Remember, voltmeters always get put on around it, like that. So it's just a V with a circle. I don't have to put any sort of measurement next to that voltmeter, just enough to indicate that it is there. And then I also want to put an ammeter in, and an ammeter actually is as part of the circuit. So if I wanted to measure it right before it's going into R3, I actually have to break up my drawing and put it in right there. So I will do that. Got it, yep, that's what I thought. So there's my R3, and then ammeter is an A with a circle in it. Okay, and so this is a circuit that's showing 3 resistors measuring 10, 25, and 10 ohms, 1 battery that's 9 volts, and both a voltmeter measuring resistor 1 and an ammeter measuring the current right before resistor 3. Now my parallel circuit, remember the key to parallel circuits is that there are multiple paths. And in fact, with ours, we had one loop or one path for each of our resistors. So our first circuit, our 9 volts battery with wires coming out of the top and bottom, would go around and it'd have just a single resistor in it. And this would be our R1, which is 10 ohms. Now, it's actually even easier to add, especially drawing with this tool, even easier to add additional branches because our wires just came off of these points and went out. And then in between them was our resistor. And then when we added a third resistor, it branched out like that. And was there. So here's my R2, which was 25 ohms, and my R3, which was 10 ohms again. I also want you to add 1 voltmeter making a measurement in here and an ammeter making a measurement across one of the resistors or coming out of the battery. So the let's say that if I wanted to measure the voltage across resistor 3, I would branch off of that and put my voltmeter. Again, I don't have to put the actual what it's actually measuring in this diagram. I just have to put it there. Now let's say I wanted to measure the current flowing only through resistor 2 and not the rest of the circuit. That means I've got to put it somewhere in between these 2 points so that any electrons branching off early and going through this circuit wouldn't get counted, and any of them branching off afterwards going through here wouldn't get counted. So they have to be between my first 2 red marks there. So I'm going to have to get this part out of the way and put my ammeter in there. That's a little too small. Do it like this. Okay, and now that ammeter would be measuring only the electrons flowing through that one resistor, not any other parts of the circuit. Okay, and that is the kind of the ins and outs of the different circuits you're going to have to draw. However, for the answer for that question, I actually want you to draw all 5 circuits of each of these. So they are broken into 2. So one of them, the first analysis, will include 5 series circuits with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resistors in each. Make sure to label them. And then the second analysis, part 2, will include 5 parallel circuits with increasing numbers of resistors. Don't forget to label everything appropriately.